Have you witnessed or experienced any quote sexism, or in other words, any unearned advantages from male compared to females?
I think in terms of salary ranges and hiring potential, there's always somewhat of a discrimination in most fields that you enter. The salary ranges are typically much lower. I wouldn't say much lower, probably in the up to 10% lower range for females versus males.
Does that seem fair to you?
It absolutely doesn't seem fair, but I think part of what goes into it is looking at the role of women in the workplace and the amount of time that some women, depending on the time of their life, if they're during their childbearing years, and desire part-time work versus full-time work if they have maternity leaves. There are different factors that come in for women versus men that I think are part of that consideration.
Have you witnessed or experienced any unearned advantages of the dominant norm group of young compared to the subordinate group of old? In other words, ageism.
It's kind of hard to say because I really consider myself more middle-aged than at the other extreme of being old age. I wouldn't say that I've experienced it in the workplace necessarily. I sometimes feel like an older parent at the elementary school, but nothing negative about that. But I think if I were entering a new field or applying for a new position, I might notice it more than in my current role that I've had for quite a number of years.
Now, do you think that can be a fair stereotype, or is it unearned and un? I mean, do you think it's good that we give those stereotypes?
You know, I think there are advantages and disadvantages of being old and young. If you look at younger people, say just graduating from college, they're going to have newer ideas, more modern ways of thinking about things versus someone who is older brings a lot more real world experience to the situation. So I think they each bring different things, and it's nice to have both ends of the age spectrum at the same time. I think when you get to the far end of the age spectrum and elderly, if you will, I think some factors, memory, those type of things start to come into play and may be a slight disadvantage if there are some true cognitive decline issues compared to someone that's younger.
Do you believe that unearned advantages can be beneficial to society, or different forms of discrimination, or should they all be abolished?
Obviously, a person, an individual, regardless of any of those different categorizations, should be judged on their individual attributes that they bring to any situation. No, it's not fair to be discriminated against for a dominant sex versus a less dominant, or however they phrase it in there. I think that it's the kind of thing across populations. Sometimes those stereotypes may be true, but I think it's very important on an individual basis to really look at the person and say, all right, well, just because this is an older person, do they fit that older person stereotype, or do they still bring to the table something unique that is to them, but not fitting in that mold? And the male versus female thing, I think men and women are biologically different. I think they each bring different approaches to the situation, but I don't think you can blindly only search for male candidates versus female candidates in any position based solely on sex. I think you really have to give the individual a fair shake and see what they bring to the situation.
So you're saying that they should be embraced to an extent, but furthermore taken on a situational approach.
I think that across populations that some of those general stereotypes may hold true, but you have to look at the individual.
Okay, thank you.